must be Thursday. Welcome to Learning Unwrapped, the talk show about your most important life skill. We are here on International Broadcast Media TV, and I'm very excited about today's show, which is just in advance of Women's History Month. So we're going to be kicking off with a show about breaking glass, women in history. So we've got a lot of great guests. We've got a lot of fun. So let me just get right started with it by bringing in my first guest, who is a party girl like me. And we actually were just talking backstage that we met at a virtual happy hour. Good fun stuff. Tansy Kilcrease is the just recently named Chief of Staff for the Bibb County, Georgia School District. Prior to that, she was their Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction. She also just received the American Association of School Administrators 2001 Women in School Leadership Award. And she's out getting her steps every day. If you follow her on Twitter, and I recommend you follow all of our guests on Twitter, you can see her every day out there doing her steps. And every day that I see that, I'm like, oh, I guess I should be doing that. But all right, we'll get to that later. So please welcome Dr. Tansy Kilcrease.
Hi, Nancy.
Shout out to Bibb County School District.
Yes, the best district in the nation.
Woohoo! Until we get to another guest. And then Tansy, tell me about something you learned this week.
I learned that.
And I should preface that by saying this is your first week as officially Chief of Staff. So You're probably learning a lot.
I am learning a lot. And that's what I wanted to say. But I have learned that I don't have to know everything. That you have to really and truly depend on the expertise of your wonderful staff. And that collective competence is so important. And so just realizing that you don't have to know everything and the importance of a team. And so it's been really good. I'm learning a lot and I'm enjoying myself.
And that is a really important lesson to share with women in leadership, because we tend to think we have to do everything ourselves and that we have to know everything. And it's important to build that network of people who are going to support us. Yes. So, all right. Well, I want you to join me as we bring in our next guest. Now, this guest wanted to be a football coach since she was 8 years old. And she happened to receive a master's degree in exercise physiology at the University of Florida. So while there, she worked as a student assistant with the strength coaches under Steve Spurrier. She then became the first female assistant coach in high school football in the state of Tennessee and probably the nation. She's working now as a trainer, instructor, staff developer at the Green Hills YMCA in Nashville, Tennessee. Please welcome Lisa Limper. Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Nancy. Hi, Shannon.
Shout out to the YMCA.
Yes.
And I get it right. Green Hills YMCA.
Green Hills YMCA, yes.
Right, in Nashville. Tell us about something you learned this week.
I learned I hate snow. We were snowed in Nashville, pretty much shut down for the last week. So while I was snowed in, I cleaned out closets. I got a lot of decluttering done and got some things together for the Glencliff Family Resource Center. And we all need to be in community is what I learned. We all need each other. Whether it's Zoom meetings when we're all snowed in and can't see each other, or taking things that you no longer need that someone else can use and passing them along. We are all in community, and we need to remember that. Sometimes it's easy to forget and just be sort of isolated, and especially these days with COVID. But that was a good reminder that we really do need each other.
That is another great lesson. And actually, Lisa, so you're a specialist in exercise physiology. And I told you already that I get jealous of Tansy doing all those steps. Lisa told me that she had watched one of the prior shows where I happened to mention that I have a torn meniscus in my knee and I'm waiting to get back north for surgery. So Lisa reached out and said she has these great walking sticks that would help me, and she put them in the mail to me. So talk about community. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. They're urban polling, and it's Nordic walking. It's basically cross-country skis without the skis, and they're a great tool.
That's awesome. Well, I'll be doing cross-country skiing in the sand, so it'll work.
Good one.
So my next guest, I'm going to present who my next guest would have been. I am sad to say that Elnez Saraf had to cancel at the last minute because she was not feeling well. She's running a fever and she's going for COVID testing. So please send out some good energy, some prayers to this woman so that all is well with her. She is the CEO and founder of the award-winning Roybe robot, the world's first artificial intelligence-powered smart toy that teaches children language and STEM skills. Her robot, Roybe, was named one of Time Magazine's best inventions in education and Fast Company's 2019 world-changing idea. Her company was on the 2019 CNBC Startup 100 list as one of the world's most promising startups. So we can't welcome Elnaz to the show, but I hope that you will look her up, see what's going on, and in her stead, one of the men who supports women in shattering glass ceilings, Mark Medding, is joining us as the VP of Sales and someone who knows Elnaz very well.
Yes, I do. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and it is an honor to actually speak about Elnaz because she is a special person, and never seen anybody with such drive and passion for what she's trying to do. And it's great to be part of this, and great to meet all you wonderful ladies here. Thank you for having me.
So, Mark, thanks for stepping in at the very last minute, because it was about a half an hour ago that, right?
My pleasure.
But tell us about
Fast on my feet. Fast on my feet.
You are. Tell us about something you learned this week.
Oh my goodness! Well, it's only Thursday, and we got a puppy about a week ago.
Say no more.
And yeah. And I learned that they have to go out about every half an hour. So, but also, that's been fun. But the company, we are in fundraising mode right now, and we've been having several conversations with foreign countries and many entities, VC groups, and all kinds of different conversations, and it's been really eye-opening what's going on out there in the way of fundraising. So that's been pretty intense and pretty fun, and a great learning experience, I think, for both of us, actually. So it's been great.
That's cool. Well, I wish you guys the best, and I wish the company the best.
Thank you. Then, appreciate that.
Because Elnaz couldn't be with us today, I also at the last minute grabbed a dear friend of mine, a woman I've been working with for 18 years. She is the executive vice president of IDE. She also heads up our project with Edquidity Inc., learn.edquidity.com, to offer self-paced courses for professional development for educators and parents and business people. I know they're working on one now that will cross all of those constituencies on executive function. So that ought to be a lot of fun. And the reason I invited her to join me is because she is the proud mother of a girl who announced at a young age that she wanted to become a Disney Imagineer. So here to bring us the perspective of what it is to be the mother of a woman that we know will be breaking a lot of glass, please welcome Tanya Bosco. Hey, Tanya.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here.
Great to have you here.
Nancy, always a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for, getting yourself all, gussied up at the last minute.
Absolutely.
Tell us about something you learned this week, Tanya.
I learned the importance of planting seeds that grow later. So I've seen it happen so many times. It's come up so many times this week. You know how when one thing happens and then maybe you pay more attention to it, so you see it happening over and over again? But I've been talking a lot with my daughter about advocating for herself. And lo and behold, today she comes home from school and says, I sent a note to my my engineering teacher because we're starting another project and we were going to stay in the same groups, but I really need to switch groups and work with kids that are like really excited about engineering, because the group I'm in, they're not as excited. And I have been waiting for this class for 2 years and I just want to be with, I want to like make the best of this. I was like, well, how cool is that? So
Good for her.
Shout out to my girl for advocating for herself. And I learned that, I didn't have to keep saying to her, do this, do this, do this. It just took a little time for those seeds to grow.
Self-advocacy is so important. Yeah. Awesome. And a skill that women, because we tend to be nurturers by what's that word?
Nature.
By nature.
Nurture by nature.
Nurture by nature.
I swear it's coffee in here. Because we tend to be nurturers by nature, that we don't always self-advocate, and that is so important, that it is so important for us to teach our little girls. So we had invited a very special guest to be here today, who is in the process of breaking another glass ceiling in her life. The challenge, however, is that she is in the middle of confirmation hearings to soon be confirmed, we hope, as the Secretary of Interior. The Honorable Deborah Haaland is actually a 35th generation New Mexican and an enrolled member in the Pueblo of Laguna. She was the first Native American woman to lead a state party in 2014. She was one of the first Native American women to be elected to Congress in 2018, because 2 were elected that year. And she is the first Native American woman to be nominated and hopefully confirmed for a cabinet position. She is the U.S. congressional representative from New Mexico, and we expect soon to be the Secretary of Interior. But she was unable to be here. So what she did was she graciously filmed an intro message to welcome all of you to the show. So let's hear from Deb Haaland.
Hello, everyone. I'm Deb Haaland, a proud member of the Pueblo of Laguna and representative for New Mexico's 1st Congressional District. I'm grateful for the opportunity to join you on the Learning Unwrapped talk show today. Thank you for taking the time to raise awareness and celebrate women in history. Women are fierce. When we have a seat at the table, policies and ideas are more dynamic and solutions are capable of supporting all our communities. Representation matters. When I first decided to run for Congress, there were people telling me that I couldn't do it. I couldn't raise the money. It's never been done before. But I wouldn't take no for an answer. I worked hard, ran a campaign I'm proud of, and now have a seat at the table to stand up for those who have never had a voice, to highlight issues that are important to our communities. I am accompanied by many other strong, powerful, and successful women who are breaking glass ceilings each and every day. During Women's History Month, we honor, respect, and celebrate the women who blazed trails before us. We stand on their shoulders as we forge new paths. You all are not just the leaders of tomorrow, you're the leaders of today, and I'm here to support and empower you. I'll leave the ladder down so you can achieve your dreams, and I will lend my shoulders for you to stand on whenever you need them. Thank you again for having me, and be fierce.
Wow. So I love her final line, be fierce. So think about this. Whether it's a story you want to share from your personal, or Mark, if you want to talk about Elnez, where was a moment where any of you had to be fierce in your charge? Or Tanya, if you want to speak, Tanya, when I was thinking of you on the show, what's so funny is at our company, the only people breaking glass ceilings is actually Boyd, who's the only man to be on our leadership team. So we're kind of a flipped situation, but in talking about any of your own experiences, plus your daughter's, like, what does it mean to be fierce? How do women have to be fierce in this fight? Who's up?
I thought you said Tanya, so that's why I was waiting.
No, come on in, Tansy.
Go ahead, Tansy.
I was just saying Tanya could represent herself or her daughter.
Oh, gotcha. I got you.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, well, I will start, Mark, if that's okay, or do you want to start?
Go right ahead, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I saw something on the female lead from Twitter, and it said, to the women who are labeled aggressive, keep being assertive. Bossy, keep on leading. Difficult, keep telling the truth. Too much, keep taking up space. And complicated, keep asking hard questions. And so I think being fierce is just pretty much being who you are. And a lot of times as women, we don't want to be labeled as the bossy, you know what. I'm not going to say that on national, on international.
International, right?
Yes,
Right.
I am representing the Bibb County School District. But a lot of times, When you are an assertive woman, you're labeled as something that we don't want to be labeled as. And so I think that being fierce, first of all, is just being who you are and being comfortable with who you are and understanding that we as women have a lot to add. We are value add to any business, corporation, any field, and that we can do just as much as anyone else. And we should be comfortable in being who we are in leadership. So that's what I think being fierce is.
I love that. I love that. Who else? Being fierce. I'm going to add to that.
I'll chime in. I'm speaking on behalf of Elnaz and her. When I think of fierceness, even as a man, I think of, especially in business, I think of perseverance. I think of, people along the way saying, oh, no, don't do that, or no, you shouldn't try that, or that's not going to work. And you're going, okay, thank you. And you charge right ahead and you go right through and you move on. And that's one of the things that I think I've admired about Elnaz the most is that her perseverance, and I'm an incredibly perseverant person as well. So we get along very well in that capacity where it's like when someone has something, to say that's kind of a naysayer, we kind of shrug it off and go, yeah, whatever. And we just keep on going. And, if I can share a quick story, if that's okay, Elnaz shared this with me when we first met that, I don't know if you know much about Elnaz's history, but she's Iranian, she's Persian, and she was raised there. And, the culture there is a little different about how they respond to women, as you know. Mm-hmm. And Elnaz, she had that entrepreneurial spirit from day one. I think she was born with it, actually. And she went out to start her own company in Iran. No one would listen to her. She was a young female. What do you know, right? So she had to take her father around to meetings because it would be the only way that she would be able to get attention. Mm-hmm. And these are like the kind of things like, all right, you're not going to listen to me. Well, you know what? I'm bringing, this is the kind of attitude that I think translates to fierceness, in my opinion, when I hear that. And so she decided,
because she figured out a way around the system.
100%. And once again, there's that perseverance. All right, well, you're going to tell me no. Well, I'm going to find a solution that will, have you say yes. And then I think she just said, the heck with this, I'm going to America. I don't really know the history of why she came to America, whatever, but I almost want to assume that it was probably because there was more opportunity for a woman to create a business and be respected in doing so. And so more about her as we go along the show, but I'm a fan of Elnaz, very much so. And anyway, that's
I
my
am too. And again,
interpretation.
I wish, Elnaz, I wish you the very best in health, and I look forward to seeing you on a future show once you get better. What else? Lisa, Tanya, what are your thoughts on being fierce?
Well, I'll jump in here.
Okay.
Well, go ahead, Lisa.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. Kind of along the lines of what Mark said, persistence. Like you said, I wanted to be a coach from the time I was 8 years old, and I didn't get to be a coach until I was 40. So, that's a very long time.
That's
persistent. And one of my friends said it's very lonely sometimes to be the first, and it is, because you don't necessarily have role models. You don't necessarily have someone to hold a ladder down for you. So you have to advocate for yourself. You can't take no for an answer, or you just have to keep asking until you find the person that says, well, yes, I will give you a chance. And so that's what happened. I actually crashed a faculty meeting to go and meet the head coach that I ended up working for. And he decided to give me a chance. Just don't give up. Just keep trying is basically the way to be fierce.
All right. So for me, I can't, keep thinking who told me this long ago, but when I think I was in high school, I heard the quote, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
That's right.
And so I try to pass that on to my daughter, and really everybody I know, because it really truly is that self-fulfilling prophecy for certain. And so, when I think about the idea of being fierce, it really comes from within. It's not where, you have to block out the noise. And I tell my daughter this all the time. There are going to be people in the world who try to tell you can't do something, and you just have to not listen to them. And you have to just, be self-determined. And if there's something you really want, keep going for it and just filter out that noise, because whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So that's, to me, being fierce. It's that internal determination.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
We can't hear Nancy.
Nancy,
Yeah.
you're muted.
Where's your mug, Nancy?
No. What is in that mug? That's so funny. Well, I know I was hearing feedback before, so I was thinking maybe I should mute, but can't figure out where it's coming from. I was asking about when you first, Tanya, decided, or when you first heard from your daughter that she wanted to be a Disney Imagineer.
Well, I can remember the moment pretty much clearly. And actually, it goes with a shout out I have here for another woman.
You had just given birth, and
about. I mean, we're a Disney family, so she's kind of grown up with it. But she was 6, and we had an opportunity to go hear an Imagineer speak. Now, we had conversations about Imagineers before that, and who builds all the things at Disney and all that. And we actually heard one of the greatest Disney legend Imagineers, Marty Sklar is his name. And after meeting him, that was all the conversation all the time. She got her book signed, but she bought a book with her money that she got for a birthday present, stood in line, waited this long line to get this Imagineer to sign her book, actually talked to him, which for her, she's was super shy at the time. She's coming out of her shell. And it was that just set the trajectory for her to see that things were possible. And then last year, just before everything shut down, we were fortunate enough to go to California to the Disney Imagineering studios and meet a female Imagineer, whom it turns out, and shout out to her name's M.K. Haley. She was the first female intern of Marty Sklar's. So it was so cool to meet her, and my daughter has kept in touch with her since then and sends her emails, and she's, I know we'll keep in touch with her and help her down the road with internships and things. So cool.
And I know that she is often on our outro speaking about Disney. So we wish her the best, and our advice to you is be fierce.
That's right.
So I love too that Deb Holland talked about leaving a ladder down. How can women help other women continue to break those glass ceilings? Tansy, what are your thoughts on that? And or how have you helped other women?
Well, I truly believe in the power of mentorship, because I had powerful mentors, female mentors, who have helped me to advance in my career, but not only powerful women, but I have a wonderful mentor right now who is my superintendent, Dr. Curtis Jones, and he's a man. So we have allies, we have advocates. However, I think we as women, since we know that, although the glass ceiling is invisible, it's very real. We know the struggle. We understand the struggle. We should be willing to step up and mentor others. And so I pride myself, one of my passions in this profession is mentoring other leaders and coaching other leaders. And so therefore, I'm continuously trying to encourage and empower females to take on those executive level positions. Because sometimes we feel like we don't have the time, or that our situations are that we can't do it. And so I'm always there trying to empower and encourage females to go into those positions and tell them, it can be done with a good support system. You can do it. So I think that that's the key, that we have to be willing to reach out to others and bring them along with us.
Lisa, how have you helped other women follow in your footsteps as a coach?
One of the things that I did when there weren't very many women was every time there was a conference, I would go. The American Football Coaches Association conference is 7,000 coaches from college and high school. Basically, every single college staff that is not playing for the national championship is there. And so it was 7,000 male coaches and me for the first few years that I went. But be visible to those coaches, so that if a woman did come and want to work for them, they would say, oh yeah, I remember seeing one. I've met one at a conference and she knew what she was talking about. And just to be visible when, we're not very many. Now there are lots of women who are getting to coach, which is wonderful. We've got some in the NFL. The NFL actually has an initiative. Sam Rappaport, she is charged with getting women into positions in operations and coaching and scouting from the NFL. Lori Locust, who actually has a Super Bowl ring now, has been just phenomenal with reaching out to other women who are coaching, encouraging. And that's, when we're the first ones, that's what you need to do, is encourage. Because if you can't see it, you can't be it. I love that saying.
I love too that you said, Lisa, be visible. Because I think it's important when we do achieve that we are visible in that, so that others see and then can follow suit and be encouraged by the fact that, oh, well, if she did it, maybe I can do it.
Right. Oh, there is a coach.
Right.
There weren't coaches.
You mean girls can coach football?
Yeah.
Exactly. Mark, do you have a story about El Naz that you would like to share?
On the mentoring, I think I'd be speaking a little out of school, but because I'm not as privy to that information as I would like to be. But being that she was the one of the 7 women entrepreneurs under 40 to watch last year, I know that her motivation is to empower other women and other younger women to grab a hold of their dreams and not let go. I see that inside her, that she's on a mission. We're very focused on what we're trying to do, but at the same time, she has a passion for wanting to help others. It's just an innate thing that she has, and I see that quality in her. It's really fabulous to see.
That's wonderful, and I want to have her back on a show when we talk about what it means to be an entrepreneur. Because
you should. She's got a great story. It's really pretty amazing.
I remember years ago for Women's History Month when one of my client school districts asked if I would come in and speak to the students for Women's History Month, and I think they were expecting me to come in and speak about what it is to run a company or what it is to be an educational consultant. And I started by saying, my profession is entrepreneur. And then I went to talk about what it means to be an entrepreneur. And it was very fun, because I thought if I defined myself, I would probably define myself as an entrepreneur who is always coming up with new ideas and wanting to start this, that, and the other thing. I think reinventing is part of my experience. So this is where I can give a shout out to my new book, because I'm all about how do we reinvent, how do we create, how do we build up. And I'm really excited to share that I'm going to be presenting at a conference next week in the United Arab Emirates. Of course, it'll be virtual, but on my new book and how reinventing the classroom experience actually builds academic resilience in kids. Because I think in this time, school has to change. We have to go back to a new normal. And so I am trying to break the institutional ceiling of changing what teaching and learning looks like to put students in charge of their own learning. So I'm hoping that the book was also accepted at the World Education Summit. And so it'll be presented there in March. So I'm hoping that it perhaps is the shot.
Shout out to Nancy.
Nancy, you make me so proud.
Thank you.
That's just phenomenal.
Well, perhaps it'll be the shot that's heard around the world, right? We can only hope.
If just if I can inject something real fast on Elna's behalf once again, when Royby was created, the idea behind it was not only to work with children, but the idea for her was to change the way education is being utilized, and technology is being utilized. So it's kind of in line with what you're talking about. So even you should have a conversation with her just from that standpoint, because it's not just a product; it's a movement.
Right.
It's really a movement. It's utilizing artificial intelligence and an interactive way to, also get children off of a screen and be able to interact and at the same time learn. And there's so much content involved, and we create content constantly for that. But that really is. Her mindset is the same way as yours. There's a new way of learning, and it's over here now, and that's just trying to get other people to get caught up to that movement, So, yeah, you guys would have a fun conversation, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will. As soon as she gets herself better, we'll give her a day. That's all.
One day, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Tanya, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just thinking. So Nancy, truly, from my heart, shout out to you as my mentor and a mentor to so many women that I know and love personally and professionally. You have this amazing network around you that you've sucked me into over the years. And, when I think about your entrepreneurial spirit and the mentorship that comes from that, we're kind of the opposites. We joke all about, Nancy's the kite, and then that fits perfectly with the entrepreneur, and I'm the string. I'm the one that let me put all the pieces together. Let me make a chart for that. Let me make, I got my list going. And it's just, it's so empowering to me to work with and be such good friends, like my sister, with somebody who just, is inspiring and is entrepreneurial and you see possibilities all the time. And that is, I love that about you. It's a wonderful thing. And I'm definitely gravitate to people who are like that. And so it's no wonder that I've stuck around all this time.
Well, and then I gravitate toward people who can take all of that and put it into a list of an outline, checklist, whatever, to make it happen. Because you can have all the ideas in the world, but if you don't have people who are working with you to implement them, it becomes very problematic. So I think the fact that we're the kite and the string is a really good. I remember we were popping in on a workshop because we were developing the first STEM LATIC, and LATIC being the Learner Active Technology Infused Classroom, our model, the first STEM LATIC middle schools in Florida. And so we had about 115, I think, teachers that we were training. And so Tanya and I decided that we'd come in on this, be a part of this training, see what was going on, and support our team and all. And for the first couple of days, I was involved, and I'm going around from table to table, giving the teachers all these ideas for ways that we can, problems, because I'm big into problem-based learning, problems that they can create with their kids. And there's all these ideas flowing around. And then on the third day, Tanya comes in and she puts up a picture of a kite. And she said, for the last 2 days, you've spent your time with the kite. I am the string. I'm going to teach you how to create rubrics for expectations in boxes and rows. And it was true. It was true.
Much fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we have had fun. All right. So come on. What else about breaking glass? Women. And are there any women to whom you want to give a shout out who you feel have been significantly breaking glass? Tansy, I feel something coming out of your head.
Okay. Well, now she's not around anymore, but Phoebe Sudlow was the first female superintendent back in 1874.
Yes, she was.
A trailblazer. And I tell you, it's amazing to me how in the education profession, over 80% of educators are females, but only 24% serve at the executive level and are superintendents. And when you start talking about race and you put that in it, it's even less women of color who serve as superintendents. So, for her to be able to break that glass ceiling back in 1874, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I just think that, unfortunately, we've made some headway, but we still have such a long way to go. And so that's just been my platform for the past 3 years or so, just really just making people aware of the importance of women in executive leadership positions in school education.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Well, I think it's, going into various professions and seeing, I can be anything. I grew up, I was born in a little town. I was born in Philadelphia, and there are two other people on this screen who were born in Philadelphia. Shout out to Philadelphia. And yeah, right. And it's all these little coincidences that happen. I was born in Philadelphia, and I have no idea what I was about to say. What were we talking about? I swear there's only coffee in there.
Sure.
I literally don't remember where I was going because I got so excited about the Philadelphia. All right, let's get back to women breaking glass ceilings. So, who's got a thought, an idea, a comment, or shout out to kids today who little girls and how they're going to break glass ceilings?
Well, one thing I can share is I was in the car the other day with my daughter, and we were actually talking about this show because we were talking about the outros. And I said, Aunt Nancy's looking for some other outros. And she said, what's the show's about? And I said, well, one of the things is about breaking the glass ceiling. And she didn't say anything. She was real quiet. And I said, do you know what that means? And she said, no. And I said, you know what? I'm really happy you don't know what that means because
yes.
She doesn't even see that there's a glass ceiling. And I feel like that's the generation now. That's like, old school thinking, right? Like there is no glass ceiling. We could do anything we want to do, be anything we want to be. And we surround ourselves with, and I keep thinking about this idea of mentors and how important mentors are in all walks of life, every aspect of your life, having mentors. So that's my story. I'd like to erase the term glass ceiling from our vocabulary. We're not quite there yet, but we're going to get there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. Good point. You're telling me the name of my show is bad.
No, I'm telling you that, I was inspired that she didn't know what that was. That was great.
Well, and I know the young man who does our final part of the outro and announces the show for the following week, last week when he announced this and he said, breaking glass women in history, he looked up and he was like, are they really breaking glass?
Right.
Because you're right. I hadn't thought about it. It is not a term that necessarily applies.
Right.
Lisa, you were going to say something.
Yes, I was going to give a shout out to Natalie Randolph. She's from Washington, D.C. She was actually the first, D.C. Yeah, she was the first head female high school coach in the country. And I'm not sure there's been one since her, to be honest.
Wow.
For a lot of years, and that was impressive to do it in inner city DC school. I got to meet her at a conference, and she was fabulous.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, and I think that's where I was headed before. When I was a kid, girls didn't even have sports. Sports weren't for girls; they were for boys. And when people talked about what you were going to be as a girl, it was you were going to be a teacher or a nurse. And I remember that my best friend was going to be an accountant, and I'm like, an accountant? Can you be an accountant? Like it was one of those. Is that an option? And I remember too that the idea was that you should get out of college and get married. And she had announced that she was not getting married until she turned 25. And all of us said, like, 25? That's so old. But it's very funny, the pathway that is not that far behind us. When we look back to see the path that we've traveled, it's kind of a short history.
Well, Nancy, since we're talking about daughters, I would have to give a shout out to my daughter, Ashlyn Kilcrease, who just graduated from the University of Georgia.
Congratulations.
She is such a role model to me, and she just makes me, anytime I've decided to do something, or I'll say, for example, this chief of staff, I always go and ask her, do you think I can do that? She's like, yes, you can. You can do anything. I mean, she's fierce alone, and she's just who she is. She doesn't care what anyone else thinks. but she's the most humble and meek person that I've met. But she is just, I want to be more like her when I grow up.
I was going to say, Pansy, that kind of describes you.
That's great.
I'm just going to say, she comes by it honestly, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because Pansy, you're pretty humble too.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I saw Lauren commented a while ago in our comments that come up about her mom. And, someone was just mentioning about the idea of looking back. And I really like that idea of looking back at, at our mothers and how did our mothers inspire us? Because my mom certainly inspired me,
Yes.
Just with the way she led her life and put the belief in me that I could do anything I wanted to do. And I feel like it's so important to pass that on, as mothers, fathers, pass that on to our children. It's not just about, the women, it's about the men in their lives too.
Yeah, you could be anything.
You can be anything.
All right. Well, I can't believe it's already 5:40 because we need to take a break for what's in your mug. So audience, tell us what is in your mug. And if you are watching live, don't be afraid to just jump onto the chat. Well, if you're watching live through YouTube, not all of the venues through which you can watch this show have the live chat, but YouTube does. So feel free to put in there what's in your mug. Now, I picked a very special mug that I ordered for this show because you will notice it is a Pueblo and the ladder is down. So Deb Holland, hats off to you. What a wonderful statement you made about leaving the ladder down for others. And I'm still drinking my McDonald's decaf coffee that I go for every week because it's so yummy. Tanya, what's in your mug?
Well, I'm actually, you might call two-fisting it here.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
I've got my Mickey mug here filled with my vanilla chai tea, and that's my daughter said she said, "Well, what mug are you going to choose?" She said, "You have to do a Disney mug." So I got my Mickey mug as a shout out.
The happiest place on earth.
And then the second happiest place on earth is where I work with Nancy. So shout out, and I won't tell you what's in this one, but it's a little bit more fun. So
Lisa, what is in your mug?
Well, I'm drinking some ginger tea out of an American Football Coaches Association mug. And what's neat about this mug is that this is a committee gift. So there are about 15 to 18 committees from the AFCA, and I'm on the registration committee. Now, as you can imagine, there are not very many women. Possibly I'm the only one that's ever been on a committee. So this committee gift is really special. And do you want to know why I was on that committee?
Why?
Because I asked.
I love that.
Because you're fierce.
But if I hadn't asked, I wouldn't be. So the lesson is don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, you can't sit back and assume that someone is going to clear a path, a desk, a place at the table for you.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
that's right. I like to say, if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
You don't ask, you don't get. Right.
So, Mark, what's in your mug?
Oh God, I'm so boring. This is leftover coffee from like 9 a.m. this morning, and it smells good. But the mug,
That's how hard he works, Elnaz.
That's right. I'm nonstop. But I will share, even though you can't see any of it anymore, this mug was given to me by my beautiful daughters. They're now 13 and 16, but they were, it's about 10 years ago for Father's Day. You can barely see any writing, but there was writing all over this. Happy Father's Day. I love you, Daddy, blah, blah, blah. All that good stuff. It's all worn off now, but it's still my favorite mug. I still drink. This is my morning comfort right here.
That's
great. And if I did have time today, I would have made my afternoon. I get that like 3-4 o'clock. I get that, I need something. And I love chai tea. And I usually have a chai tea in the afternoon, and it would be in here, but I didn't get to it.
Well, that's because I think at that time Elnaz was saying like, Mark,
exactly.
I'm
like, what? TV show? What?
All right.
Women empowerment. That makes, yeah. All right, I'm here. I'm in.
Anthony, what's in your mug?
Well, like George Washington, I shall not tell a lie.
Lauren.
There's absolutely nothing in here. However, if there was something in here, I'm going to give a shout out to Taste and See Coffee Shop here in Macon, Georgia. And I also want to tell you about my mug. It stays here with me. It is the Georgia Curriculum and Instructional Supervisors Group mug. And I am on the board of directors for that organization. And so teaching and learning is my heart. And although I'm the chief of staff now, and I'm very excited about this new opportunity, teaching and learning will always, and curriculum instruction will always be my heart. So that's why I have it there. And you'll see the wonderful state of Georgia.
I know. What a beautiful mug.
Thank you.
Ooh. Ooh. Did I get to everybody? All right. So let's continue the conversation. We're talking about women breaking glass. So I love what you said before, Tanya, that a lot of people, girls today, don't even know the phrase of breaking glass because, you know, they're not looking at it that way. And we're getting smaller and smaller in terms of, you know, the first woman too, which is a wonderful thing. So let's just talk about what it means to be women who are leading. What do you think are the skills? What advice would you give to other women who are going to, or Mark, what advice would you give to women who are going to lead others?
Would you like, are you asking me to go first?
Sure, you can go first.
Advice to lead others. How
do you lead your daughters?
Well, that's a great question. And, I appreciate you asking that because one of the women on here popped a question up, what would I think the question was something to the effect of, thank you, Lauren. What advice do you want to give to men about raising fierce girls?
Great question.
And it is an excellent question. And I appreciate the acknowledgement there. I feel like so much comes to mind, but to keep it brief and succinct, open-mindedness and getting out of the way. Let them, guide them, but get out of the way. Let them think out of the box. Let them look at things. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been, the spirit is in me, so I try to impart that onto my children. And by doing that, I open that door up for them to, look at something as it is, but look at it from different angles. Like what is it? Don't just look at it straight on, and keep that open mind and ask lots of questions. And I think that so my daughters are going to be 14 and 17, and my older daughter, let me tell you, she's got that spirit, boy. It's insane. She's so brilliant, and there is no ceiling to break glass for her.
Yeah.
There is none. If there is, it's like, get out of the way. I'm coming through it. And so I guess just to summarize that, I think I would say for any men, I think our own fears get in the way of our children's growth. And, I think if we can keep our own fears in check and allow them to be who they are and guide them the best way you can. And that's what I mean by not get in the way. Like, don't let our stuff, our fears get in the way of what they want to do. I think that's about the only advice I could really give. It's a deep one because, it's our daughters, you want to protect and you want to, but I think that's just get out of the way and let them be and guide, right? Guide. That's it. That's all I got.
I know one of my favorite fierce feminists, actually, Rowena McNulty, whose message is up here. But what if you could go back and find the post that she said when her dad told her to not burst the bubble, right? Was that it? There was because Rowena, she's younger than I am, but she still grew up back in the day when, girls were supposed to just, follow along and jump in line there. So he's saying, don't burst the bubble. And her comment is, give me the pin. And I feel like what has switched for many girls, thankfully, is that now their parents are giving them the pin and saying, go burst that bubble. Go ahead, like get through. Where do women still need to go? Like what else do we need to conquer?
What do we not need to conquer? That's
We need to cut. There are very few women senators.
Very few women senators.
Yeah.
Okay, we need more. Okay, girls out there, start running.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right.
And then Tansy, as you were saying before, when you add race to it,
Most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
how do we empower our young girls of color to because they're kind of battling two ceilings.
Yeah. Right.
It's a powerful question that has me really thinking. Because my father and my mother, who were absolutely phenomenal parents, my dad used to always tell me, you're a double minority. And I know that's probably not even politically correct now, but that's what he used to tell me. And he used to say, you're female, and you're Black. So you're going to always have to do more, prove yourself, be more. And I'm just glad they're still around to see everything that I've been able to accomplish because of them. But I think when you ask, what do we need to conquer? I really do think we need to conquer our fears and just go out there. And like someone said, just do it, just take risk, be innovative, be creative, just be wildly aggressive and fierce.
Yeah.
And I think if we can conquer that, we'll have more women serving as leaders. And we have so much to add. So you just got me thinking over here, Nancy.
Good. I like it to be a thought-provoking show. And I saw several people put in the comments their president, because you're right, we still are one of those
Most definitely.
I mean, we're a very advanced country, a leader for other countries, and yet we've never had a female president, and so many other countries have. So that's we're looking for Kamala to do that. Sorry, that's my personal shout out. What else? Where else do we need to go? What new territories? We really have a lot in sports, right? A lot of places to still roam.
For sure. But this last year or so, the Red Sox have a general manager that's a female. Women in the Super Bowl. Things that I never thought I would see. And now it's normal.
Major League Baseball's next, right?
Yeah. There's a I can't remember Justine's last name, but I think she's a hitting coach for someone.
I want to see an umpire. I want to see a female umpire. Why not? Wouldn't that be cool? Get a female behind the plate there.
One of the biggest
dirt.
I forgot one of my players. His mom said something about being walking in somewhere and into the locker room, and he said, "Well, you can't go in there. You're a girl." And she says, "Well, Coach Limper's in there." He says, "She's not a girl. She's a coach."
I love it.
I love that.
That's a good one.
That is great. I'm loving some of the comments that are coming up. There you go, Tansy. Time for you to write a book.
Oh my gosh, wildly aggressive. That'd be a wonderful title.
Right? There it is. I've got a publisher for you too. So come on, get writing.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too. To your question, Nancy, about where do we need to go next? Where we need to go next is to overcome, Mark mentioned fear, and Tansy talked about being wildly aggressive, and Lisa's, bringing in this idea that there's no limits. I feel like that's where we need to go next, is to just really shift the conversation, shift the belief, flip the triangle, if you will, Nancy, one of your favorite things, like to really think about inspiring girls and women, and just instilling in them the belief that you could do anything is possible. If you believe you can, and that's it. And that's how we change the world.
Yeah.
Well, what I love about Mark being on the show and really being here speaking on behalf of how do you say it? Elness? Yes.
Elness, yeah.
Yeah, is we need more men who understand this issue. And as I said, we need allies, we need advocates, and we just need for you all to understand the importance that you all play, the role that you all play in helping to bring about that awareness of breaking this glass ceiling and how important that is.
If I can comment on that, I feel like there's that there's a divide between the generations. So the older generation, I think, has more of that stigma of, oh, okay, here comes a woman who's gonna, what is she gonna do for me? Versus the generations that are coming up, and even I would say even my generation, which I think we're all in the same, see more equality. Whereas I guess my point is I think it's generational. And if you can figure out a way for men to not have mommy issues, that might be it. I'm just joking. But seriously, I do believe that the push of women leaders is there's more and more of them, so they're becoming more and more commonplace in our generation now. And even I'm 53 years old, so I would probably say that there's even men in my generation, in my age group, that are probably that old school. I'm not, but there are still that old school. But as they come up from men in their 20s, 30s, 40s, this is going to be more commonplace, and it's not even going to be a thing. So I think that that's really my own personal, being a man and seeing it open-mindedly, that I think there's going to be less conflict for women to be able to lead in the years to come, because it's not even going to be a thing anymore. That's my hope. And that's really truly my belief, is it's that kind of thing. And the more women are doing what they're doing, like all of you here, and there's so many more that are doing amazing, amazing things. Look at the work that, Ruth Bader Ginsburg did. Shout out to her. I mean, she paved the way for most of, right? I mean, I think it really kind of started there, and that's a worthy shout out for all, just you ladies here, but all of the women that are trying to, push through. Who knew that, she'd be, RGB, right, would become like this movement, right? Like she got the notoriety that she deserved finally. And so that's just a thought,
I remember watching the documentary on her and thinking, it's one thing to say she became Supreme Court Justice, but when you look at her history of going to school, getting to Harvard, like all of the ceiling she was breaking, talk about someone who was fierce.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
So, wow, it's hard to believe that we are about, we're running out of time on such an important topic. So I think that, I was thinking about 15 years ago, I was the board president of Girls Inc. in Northern New Jersey. And that's an organization, shout out to Girls Inc., that helps girls become strong, smart, and bold. And I remember in taking on that position that I did a lot of reading of research in boys versus girls, and how girls learn and how boys learn, et cetera. And there was a fascinating fact that came out that makes me realize that I think what we need to do is make sure, as women and as men, that we recognize some of the differences and figure out how we mediate our way. And one that was most fascinating to me was that physiologically, men's ears and women's ears are different. And that men men do, I want to be careful of what my physiological explanation is, but basically speaking, men don't hear as well as women do. So because of that, we all modulate our voices based on how we hear. So women tend to speak more softly because they hear themselves. Men tend to speak more loudly because they don't hear as well. And so then what happens is you put the two of them together in a room, and it feels like the men are being, bullies or taking over or whatever, and the women are being mean. But the reality is just, we literally have different kinds of ears. And I remember as I studied it for school that little girls would be sitting, let's say, in the front of the classroom with a female teacher, they're fine, but with a male teacher, they would report that he's always screaming. But he wasn't. It was just, It's the way he speaks. And then we compounded that with the fact that girls tend to want to be pleasers and want to please authority figures, and boys tend to just want to do what they want to do. And so you put these two research studies together, and it was hysterical because we were able to show teachers in school that the boys don't care about getting that A for the teacher. They're fine with the B, the C, whatever. And they're going to sit in the back of the room. Well, now the female teacher's in the front of the room talking and they can't hear her. So there's all of these implications that have to do with gender differences. And I think that it's just fun to realize that we're different. We bring different strengths to the table. And the fact that we can all be at a table together is going to be the best thing that could possibly happen for our world. So to all the women out there, to all the little girls out there, you know, as my mom and dad told me, nothing can stop you. You can be and do anything you want. And so before we end the show, I would love for each of you to give a little shout out to all of the women who are out there, young and old, as to what advice or encouragement you would give them. Mark, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, persevere. Don't stop. You know, if you believe it, you feel it, it's in there, it's a passion of yours. Do not let anybody or anything get in your way. Just
and
go.
Live audience, please put your shout outs in there as well as to what advice or what encouragement would you give to women everywhere. And Lisa, what would you like to end with?
My advice is, if you don't ask, the answer is already no.
I love that. And you have definitely shown us your pattern of just going in with your knife and fork and sitting down with your place at the table. So I love that.
Another way to say it is it's easier to apologize than ask permission.
That's always a good one too.
Yes.
That's always that. Yeah, it's actually one of the, I always like to say, ask for forgiveness, not permission. Right. I have this little magnet. She believed she could, so she did. And so that's my advice, is just, you have to believe. Don't ever stop believing. It comes from within, and you put your own limits on yourself. So there are no limits.
That's true.
Tansy.
You can do anything you put your mind to.
That's right. There's nothing to stop us. And that's the most important thing to remember. And a shout out again to Deb Holland for giving us a wonderful intro for the show today and leaving the ladder down for women everywhere. Appreciate that. We are going to head backstage, but the audience is going to get to see some of the girls of IDE share with us what they want to be when they grow up. Have a great week. We'll see you next week for Unlocking Leadership at All Levels. I love you guys. See you backstage soon. Live audience, see you next week. But watch the outro first.
I want to be a ballerina. When I grow up, I want to have my own bakery called Cats, Cakes, and Cookies. That's alliteration. When I grow up, I want to be a doctor. When I grow up, I want to be an artist. This is my drawing pink flower I made.
When I grow up, I want to be, well, if you've been watching, you know I want to be an Imagineer.
When I grow up, I would like to be a teacher.
When I grow up, I want to be an environmental scientist or a photographer for National Geographic or a park ranger.
I want to be a veterinarian because I get to care for animals. I like animals. A farmer because I get to eat healthy food and I also get watermelon, my favorite fruit. Thanks for watching Learning Unwrapped. Tune in next week to talk about unlocking leaderships at all levels. Got the leadership keys.